How's it going, everyone? Welcome to my channel. My name is Zach. Today we're going to be doing a review and discussion on the new episode of The Witcher, our new series of The Witcher, episode 1. So I watched this last night as soon as it came out on Netflix. I'm a huge Witcher fan. I played the third game many times, and I started getting into the books when I heard this show was coming out. So I have not read all of the books, but I have read the first two, and I'm almost done with the third one. So from what the showrunners have said, this first season is all about the first two books. So I should have a complete understanding of everything that's going on. Alright guys, so I'm going to do a super brief plot summary of the entire episode. I'm going to go by the story of Geralt and Blaviken, and then I'll talk about Ciri. And this is just a brief thing. I'll get into it for the people who want a discussion after I do this. So Geralt kills Kikimora. He wants to get paid for it, and he thinks if he kills it and goes into town, he'll get some money. Turns out that's not the case, but the alderman's daughter says, hey, if you take it to this wizard, he may pay you to do an autopsy. Right before that, he goes to a bar, and it's obvious witches are hated. He almost gets into a fight almost instantly. Everyone views him as a freak, as a mutant. They don't want him there. Renfri, a random girl at the bar, kind of befriends him. You can tell she holds sway over some of the men in her party, well, over all of them, and you can tell she's the boss. And she befriends him before he goes and sees the wizard, and just leaves it at that for the moment. He goes and sees the wizard, Stregobor, goes to his tower, and Stregobor tells him why he's there. He heard Geralt was in town, and he doesn't care about his Kikimora. He doesn't want to dissect it. He wants Geralt to kill Renfri, the woman he just met in the bar. His reasoning for this is she's a cursed child. She was born under an eclipse. It's called the Curse of the Black Sun. He was there when she was born, and he says he delivered her at noon under a black sky. So obviously it was an eclipse, and he believes these children are cursed. There's like 60 of them. They're all females, and over the course of time he has experimented on these females, on these children, locked them in towers, done autopsies on them, and killed a lot of them. But he believes it's for the greater good, because they are cursed, they're internally mutated, and they have a predisposition to violence, and they're evil. When they grow up, they're going to be evil. That's what Stregobor believes. And he kind of ruined Renfri's life because of this belief. And there's a long backstory between him and Renfri that is not delved into in the show. But pretty much, he has made multiple attempts on her life over the years, and she has tried to kill him many times over the years, all over the continent. Stregobor has been all over the continent, and he's finally ended up here, running from Renfri and Blaviken in his tower. Now his reasoning for this is Geralt says, why don't you kill her? He says she's resistant to magic. So him being a wizard, that's his means of doing damage. He can't really take care of her on his own. But he knows a witcher, a skilled fighter, can. So he tries to convince Geralt to do it, saying it's the lesser evil. Now it's a very famous line from the Witcher books. And I think it's a perfect episode to have as the first episode, because it shows Geralt's position on worldly matters. It kind of shows his moral compass. His speech about there's greater evil, middle evil, lesser evil, it doesn't matter to him. If he has to choose between one of them, he doesn't want to choose. He would prefer to stay neutral and not make that decision at all. And then we get Renfri's side of the story. She finds him in the forest, explains her side of the story about how she was born to be a princess. She was born into a powerful family, and Stregobor kind of ruined her life. She believes she's human. She doesn't think she deserves what's happening to her. She fled. Stregobor sent a man after her to get her back or kill her. Instead, he rapes her, and she explains that she kills him. She stabs him in the temple with this brooch, which is justifiable. She killed a man in self-defense. But as Stregobor says, she killed animals as a kid. She was violent toward humans. She stabbed a maid. She has problems. So she pretty much tries to get on Geralt's good side, explain to him like, hey, I want you to kill Stregobor for me because of all these things he did to me, and that would be the lesser evil. And Geralt says, yeah, I've been hearing all about this lesser evil. And in my opinion, the show doesn't explain her motives too well, what she plans to do, but pretty much her plan, they do talk about ultimatums a lot, and that's an important thing in the book that I'll get into later. But her plan is to kill the townspeople, hold them hostage, and murder them until Stregobor comes out of his tower, or Geralt can kill Stregobor for her, and she doesn't have to do any of that. That's her plan. So, you know, Geralt's caught between two people. Stregobor wants her dead, and she wants Stregobor dead, and they both want Geralt to do it. But Geralt says, why do you want him dead? Just leave Blaviken, go live your life, and be free. And then they make love, because Geralt's a man whore, and anytime he has the opportunity to have, or to make love with an attractive female, he pretty much does it. Even being her, who he knows is cursed, internally mutated, and could be evil, doesn't matter to Geralt. It's kind of funny. And so the climax happens. Geralt figures it out in his sleep what she's gonna do. He comes to the marketplace knowing what they plan on doing. All these men are gonna start killing citizens until Stregobor comes out, because as the town wizard, it's his duty to kind of protect and look after the town he's living in. That's kind of implied in the books and stated in the books. They didn't really talk about it in the show, but it's kind of his duty. But once again, Stregobor doesn't care. So Geralt comes to the marketplace, sees all these men. Renfri is gone, talking to Stregobor, telling him her plan. She's actively telling him at this moment, I'm gonna kill people till you come out. Stregobor literally says, kill everybody, I'm not coming out. So Geralt comes and they fire on him first. I guess it's justified. Well, it's justified regardless, but he absolutely brutalizes her men. It's not even a fair fight. He blocks the crossbow bolt and just decimates them. Renfri comes back from talking to Stregobor. She has Marilka threatening to kill her, but she doesn't. She throws her aside and fights Geralt. A very cool fight scene with her. You can tell she's powerful, a lot stronger than her men. She moves very quickly, very fluidly, and she uses a sword and a dagger. I really liked her fight style. Geralt bests her. He tries to let her live, you know, he tries to give her a chance, as you can see right here. But you know, she's holding this dagger and she tries to go for him one last time and he puts her down. And the townspeople come back, you know, and they see that Geralt has butchered all of these men and this woman, and they don't quite understand why. All they see is a man who they already hated because he's a witcher murder a bunch of people. And so they instantly turn on him. They kind of form a mob and they start throwing stones at him. Stregobor makes it worse. He wants to dissect or do an autopsy on Renfri. Geralt won't allow it. But they tell him to leave. Marilka tells Geralt to leave and never come back because they think he's a monster. So they don't understand what he did it for. And in the show, I don't think they explained it very well what he did it for. He knew that Renfri and her men were going to start killing all the townspeople. So he came and put it into it before it even started. He did not even let it escalate at all. So he made the choice between the lesser evil, and he's cast out for it. So that is the Butcher of Blaviken. Well, he gets that name from this story. They call him the Butcher of Blaviken, and he's known all over the continent for this one moment. And then we switch to Ciri's story. Now this is taking place in the future from what we saw with Geralt. This is decades in the past of what we're seeing with Ciri. As you will hear, Renfri mentions Calanth. This is Queen Calanth right here, Ciri's grandmother. Ciri in this scene says, "You were winning battles at my age," and they mention the battle. And then Renfri in Geralt's story mentions how Calanth just won her first battle at whatever. So you can tell she's a grandmother in this part of the story. So that's probably 50 years in the past that we just saw. So Ciri is the princess of Cintra. Her grandmother is the queen of Cintra. But from her story, you can see she's not really into all the princess type functions. She doesn't want to dance. She doesn't want to be formal. And she just kind of wants to goof off and be a kid. The four people sitting at the table, this is Iced. This is the king. He's only the king because he married Calanth. He doesn't want to be king, so he kind of lets her run everything. And this is Mousesack. He's kind of like, I think he's a druid. He has magical abilities, and he's kind of like an advisor. And you can even tell Ice doesn't want to be king either. He jokes around. So they talk about Nilfgaard right here, how Nilfgaard is a potential threat, but Calanth doesn't believe it will escalate to that. Well, shortly after their conversation, her scout comes and informs her, well, Nilfgaard's coming to Cintra right now. They're coming to take over. And you can tell the dread on her face is, she knows. I like the actress. I think she did a good job portraying like the fear and the dread that she knows is coming. And she says, "Let Ciri enjoy this night. It's going to be the last one she enjoys for a while." Fast forward, they have the battle. Calanth and Iced, the king and queen, are on the front lines. You have Nilfgaard come over the hill in a very foreboding scene. This is Cintra over here. Iced is killed. He's shot straight in the face by an arrow. It's very abrupt. It's very brutal. It took me back. I wasn't expecting it. And Calanth is wounded in the battle and makes it back to the palace in Cintra, knowing they lost, knowing Ciri's going to have to flee. Mousesack holds him back as long as he can. He puts a barrier up in front of the palace, and Nilfgaard can't get in. Well, they lay siege to it. They eventually get in. They don't take any prisoners. It's shown how brutal the Nilfgaardians are. They kill citizens. All the citizens in the palace are handed poison, and they kill themselves because they'd rather do that than be taken alive by Nilfgaard and brutally murdered or tortured. So Calanth pretty much tells Ciri, "Go find Geralt. He is your destiny." She knows who Geralt is. Mousesack knows who Geralt is. It's pretty much Nilfgaard breaks in. Calanth kills herself. She pulls a King Tommen from Game of Thrones, goes face first out the window. Because of course you'd rather do that than get taken alive by Nilfgaard. This is one of the citizens. He fed his wife and son poison and then kills himself. And Ciri flees with Mousesack, who stays behind to hold him off, and Laszlo. She gets caught at the end by the feathered helmed Nilfgaardian. He's kind of like the main bad guy at this point in the story. Him right here, he's the guy who killed Iced, and he's the guy who killed Laszlo and is coming after her. Well, Ciri has a power, a magical ability, source power, and you can see, you don't quite know what it is at this point yet, but you can see she has something, and she uses it right here. She screams it's otherworldly. She brings this giant obelisk crashing down, and that's how she gets away from this guy. And that's pretty much the summary of the story. So she's gonna run off into the forest. We will see how that connects with Geralt. Now, to get into things that I liked and what I didn't like about the episode, and kind of some things that were different from the books. This is for you people who are interested in more in-depth discussion, if you've read the books and kind of want to express your opinion, because I want to express mine. So Geralt doesn't know Stregobor in the show. I don't know why they changed that from the books, because that kind of plays into their dynamic, and it explains why they don't like each other and kind of why Stregobor turns on him at the end. I don't know why that was a necessary thing to cut out. Geralt never meets with the alderman of the city. He meets her daughter instead of living with him in his house, and Renfri meeting him in his attic and then making love there. They do it in the forest, which is a little weird. It doesn't explain how she found him in the forest, any of that. Also, they left out the Tritum ultimatum, which was the important thing that would explain why they were doing what they were doing, or what their plan was. In the scene before they make love, Renfri talks about this thing called the Tritum ultimatum, but she doesn't explain what it is. Well, the next morning, Geralt is talking to the alderman, and he just randomly brings it up and explains what it is. It was like a hostage situation where a bunch of people were just massacred, a bunch of innocent people. So Geralt was like, well, that's exactly what they're gonna do. And that explains why he goes and just massacres them without even saying a word to him. And I feel like the show could have done a little better job of explaining that. So yeah, I didn't really like how their plan wasn't explained. I feel like it lessened the emotional impact of Geralt's story and how he became the Butcher of Blaviken. Renfri also keeps mentioning Ciri, the girl in the forest, like as if she's connected to Ciri. She's not. She has no connection to Ciri, and the show's seeming to imply that. Because Mousesack talks to Ciri about how girls used to be locked up in towers. He's referring to these girls like Renfri, and how she's behaving the way she is, kind of implying that Ciri's one of those girls. I didn't really like that. I don't really like how Renfri could see Ciri in that way. That was kind of weird to me. Also, at the very end, this is minor, Geralt doesn't use Quinn to protect himself from the stoning. I wanted to see Quinn. I wanted to see how they used the CGI to portray what a Quinn shield looks like. It would probably look like what Mousesack's shield looked like. It doesn't make sense. Why would he not do it? If he's capable, why would he just sit there and take the stones? Alright, but getting into the things I liked about the episode. So, the fight scenes mainly. I had no expectations that the fight scenes would be this brutal and violent. This is some next level of violence, in my opinion. Now, I've watched Game of Thrones. There's certain scenes in Game of Thrones that are on this level of violence, but a typical fight scene in Game of Thrones does not reach this level. I mean, how many people were decapitated this episode? Multiple people were decapitated, and it shows it. It doesn't cut away. Multiple people are stabbed, ran through with swords. In that ending scene, Geralt stabs the guy in the face and rips it out. Like, and it shows it. I'm not complaining, but I'm gonna watch this with my girlfriend, and I was kind of like, I don't think she'll like this, because it was a lot. But the choreography is really good. I really like the fight scenes, and I feel like they carried this episode very well. The story was okay. Maybe it's just because I've read it from the books, and I had certain expectations, and why I view it as less good than I expected. I liked his story about killing his first monster when he's talking to his horse in the forest, because you're like, okay, cool, let's hear what his first monster is. And it turns out it's a human who was going to rape a girl, and Geralt kills the man, and there's blood all over the girl, and she ends up screaming and vomiting. So he can't even do things right whenever he tries to help. The people he helps still see him as a monster, which is displayed very well in this episode. He deflected the crossbow bolt with his sword. In the books, they make it a big deal. Like, the guy shoots him and he deflects it, and they're like, who can block a crossbow bolt with their sword? They kind of get a taste of what's about to happen from the very get-go. It's a cool moment in the books. I'm looking at my phone, stuff I put on it about what I liked. I put Geralt does indeed kill nastily, because in the books, it's hard to understand a fight scene when they describe it in a book, how Geralt moves. And so seeing it, Stregobor, or someone in the books, says, you kill nastily. Like, you kill very well and you kill nastily. And as you can see, he does. He's very brutal. He has no mercy. He's going to kill you in the quickest and most efficient way possible. Yeah, it's brutal when a Witcher kills a man, because he's just so far above their level. Renfri fight was good. Like I said, I liked her fight style. I liked how quick she was. I liked how she was kind of dual wielding a dagger and a sword. It exceeded my expectations, honestly. She did wound him a lot more than in the book, I think. Like, she cut him a few times. She almost stabbed him. He grabbed it with his hand, and I think it's because he was taking it easy on her. He didn't want to kill her, as you can see at the end where he's holding the sword to her throat and he won't do it. And in the show, he stabs her in the neck. In the book, he cuts her femoral artery in her thigh, and she's bleeding out. As she's bleeding out, he's standing over her. She's telling him to come closer, like, be with me when I'm dead, and he doesn't do it. And he sees the dagger in her hand after she's dead, so she was still trying to kill him even at the end. So they interpreted it a little bit differently, but overall it was the same. It was implied. So overall, guys, coming from a book reader's perspective, I feel like the scenes were done very well. The actors are all great. I had no problems with any of the actors. Only thing, actually, Calanth, it was a little off-putting. In the books, she's super blatant, like, up front. She's a hard ass. In the show, especially in that first scene when she's standing there like knighting people, it's kind of goofy. And I was like, this is not how it actually is. That was probably my least favorite scene, was in the throne room when she was knighting him and Ciri and Ice were joking around. It didn't seem fitting. It seemed fitting for Ciri, but not for Iced or Calanth. The fight scenes were amazing. Even the large battle between Nilfgaard and Sintra, I was kind of worried about, like, the budget. Are they going to be able to pull this off? I feel like they did it very well, honestly. They showed the brutality. They showed, like, it kind of reminded me of Game of Thrones, like, in your face. It's like you're actually in the battle. Not to that extent yet. Obviously, this is the first season. The only thing I didn't like about it was the storyline. I just feel like it could have been explained better, and, like, the weight of the events could have been more impactful. Because in the book, it was like a huge thing. You know, it impacted me greatly in the book with what he did. In the show, maybe it's because I was thinking about the book and I missed something. I just don't feel like it was explained very well that they were going to kill everybody, and this is why Geralt did it. CGI for the most part was good. I think the weakest part of the CGI was when he fought the Kikimora in the beginning. Like, when he first comes in and he's like hanging on its arm, you can tell. But the monster itself looks good. Like when he stabs it in the mouth and it comes out the back of its head, I think that looked very good. We'll have to see how the rest of the monsters look. But so far, you can tell this isn't like budgeted like Game of Thrones. They don't have the CGI that show had. But when you look at Game of Thrones Season 1, they didn't have the budget that they had in the later seasons. but it's also not as bad as like a CW show, like Supernatural, or these Arrow, or these superhero shows on CW where the CGI is just like horrible. It's pretty good, and I only expect it to get better as the show gets more popular, because I believe the show is gonna blow up. And I read all 8 episodes, what they're gonna cover, and I'm excited about a couple of them. Like they cover some cool stories. But if you enjoyed just hearing from a book reader's opinion, or just me discussing the show, comment about it in the comments. Like, let's have a discussion about what you think of the show. Let's say the first episode, I would give it I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, just leave your overall opinions in the comments, because I'm a huge fan of The Witcher, and I want to see what other people think. It's my favorite game of all time. It's one of my favorite universes, so I'm real into it, guys. I'm gonna probably watch the second episode tonight. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.